All right. I love this episode. The first initial reaction to the craziness of the legal tampering period, which is always just free agency beginning 2 days early every time. But today, March 10th, is an anniversary mark of one of the most epic hauls ever um,
Oh,
in NFL history. So, in return for a number one overall pick, this team received the number 9 pick and the number 61 pick, plus a first round pick in the following year and a second round pick in the year after that, and wide receiver DJ Moore. I'm talking, of course, about the
this
Chicago
is the
Bears.
anniversary,
3 years to the
3 year.
day. 3
Wow.
years to the
Mario
day.
Day. Mario Day.
Yes. Yes,
That's
big time.
crazy.
Shout out to my brother Mario, by the way.
Yeah,
Big
shout
day
out.
for him.
And it's the trade's not even over, Dan, because they just traded DJ Moore for a second rounder.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's the gift that
So
keeps on giving.
you know what I mean? And then you could say, well, the trade's never going to end because then
They'll
that
trade the
player,
draft pick.
could be whatever. But yeah, that's crazy. DJ Moore's 3 years in Chicago. I mean, I know we'll talk about it here. It's sad to see him go, but it was fun to relive all the big catches. I'll never forget that first preseason game. He takes the little bubble screen from Justin Fields and houses it like 60 yards.
I
And
forgot about that.
it was like, oh, I remember that
Like
feeling
we've
being like,
arrived.
I think I tweeted out like, okay, bench him. I've seen enough. Like bench him for the rest of the preseason. Like let's go. We're ready to roll. And I'm sure then I went on, 2 weeks later on our prediction show to be like, the Bears are making the playoffs. They're going 10.
Right. Yeah.
They're going to win 10 games.
Well, your Chicago Bears have lost a couple players, but they've gained some as well. So nothing too crazy. We've already talked about the center in a different episode, but some free agency activity going on in Chicago and plenty other places. So there's already been a few bombshells, some huge moving pieces. So we're going to try and get to as much as we can here in this early free agency reaction.
Was that okay? Was that
That is
happening?
amazing.
I was worried it was just me. I was like, is everyone else seeing this? Or
It was also it was
a
also
glitch.
saying that was going to be like a 5-minute video.
Wow.
So
That would have been amazing if that went on for 5 minutes.
What an intro and a springboard into the
That would
show.
have been amazing. Oh, Dan, that's
Incredible stuff. That was like a clown show.
It was very
type
funny.
introduction. I love it.
There's so much to get to. I know we'll talk like Bears and Steelers at some point, but I'll just say I love what the NFL has done with this tampering. I love that it's this time of the year too, because March Madness starting, this week with conference championship weeks, and then, obviously next Thursday on for, about 3-4 weeks, it really like fills such a nice gap. So the NFL gives us this kind of last little like injection of NFL. And then it's like, okay, we'll see you, kind of like April for the draft, right? It's like, hey, we'll take the rest of March and most of April off. So you get Madness and you get the Masters, and it's like, yeah, and we'll come right back in for the draft. So this is really well done by the NFL. It's a lot of fun. And Dan, there are some shockers to me. I can't. I got a lot of great thoughts.
Just start with we'll start with some of the shockers then.
Well, I didn't think no one was talking about Maxx Crosby to the Ravens, right? Like that was, to me, it was like,
yeah, I didn't see that coming either.
No, I mean, I saw the Eagles. Lane Johnson was tweeting eyeballs. Obviously, he had Caleb Williams had done the podcast, and there was all this Bears speculation. That one was a shocker, but if I'm the Ravens, it feels like they're committed to this retooling, right? Whatever this retooling and this kind of revamping around Lamar in his prime, I give them credit for doing that. And again, where the Ravens historically have been picking in the first round the last couple of years, it feels like they've just missed out on the highest end talent. So they said, screw it, let's go get the highest end talent. I know it's hard for you to swallow, but I like the move if I'm a Ravens fan. I'll preface it with something after I get your reaction.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like the move. It's good to acquire incredible talent at any level, let alone a team that's been on the precipice and then obviously fell quite short last year, not even making the playoffs. So I understand that aspect of it. I thought the return was kind of wild. I mean, good on the Raiders for securing two first round picks. And I know that a lot of people point to the Rams being able to pull off something similar over the years, where they're constantly dispensing with their first round pick to just build around with proven talent. It's a strategy that works, but you have to be a franchise that makes it work. Then it's got to work.
Yeah.
And this has been a team that's defense has been struggling, especially the pass rush. So all of it makes sense. It's a great fit, and he's going to be awesome. It sucks that for a Steelers fan having to face that twice a year. It sucks even more for Joe Burrow, who now has to play 6 games a year against T.J. Watt, Myles Garrett, and Maxx Crosby, while his guy Trey Hendrickson is no longer on the team.
Yeah.
So that would have been probably one of the most epic divisions of edge rushers of all time. It may already be, but all of that to say, the Ravens have a lot of holes that they still need to fill, especially on their defense.
Yeah.
And you just hope that they're going to be able to make that work in the next couple years, because they're not going to have a first round pick to fill any of those gaps. But they've got Lamar and Maxx Crosby. They've got 2 absolute superstars on both sides of the ball. It's a good start, at least.
Yeah, we'll get to we just got a comment in the chat that it's a good one. Question of wanting to know what our grade for the Raiders offseason is so far. We'll definitely we'll jump into the Raiders here. They've been so active. But I want to end with this. One of the things I was getting criticized for, and I think a lot of people, it's just kind of like you have to choose a side, right? Are you wanting to trade multiple first round picks for a guy or not? And my philosophy was, I said, I don't want to do it. I don't think it's the right move. And I think the Bears just have too many holes, and they're already in some real cap issues because of defensive signings they made last year. And Dan, I thought this tweet really summed it up for me. Adam Schefter tweeted this after the Maxx Crosby trade. This is a list of players who have fetched at least 2 first-round picks in return. You go all the way back to Herschel Walker, but listen to some of these recent names. And you say to me, would the teams do that over again and decide not to trade those first-round picks? The Jalen Ramsey deal, that original Jalen Ramsey deal. The Khalil Mack deal for the Bears. It was a nice 2018, but they didn't keep him around, and and then they let him walk. Jamal Adams deal.
Yeah, that was bad.
That was a bad one. The Laramie Tunsil draft. I mean, he's still with that team, and they're resigning him. But I mean, has he
been an All-Pro? No,
yeah, right. And then Micah Parsons, Sauce Gardner just last year. Now, both those are too early to tell. But with the Micah injury and the Sauce injury, and then the season falling apart, I think Indianapolis would love to have a first-round pick this year. So it's now. In all fairness, for the rest of the tweet, Matthew Stafford is on that list. That worked out.
Yeah.
Because you're trading.
I feel like you can't even include quarterbacks because.
Well, and that's why I focused on the defensive guys, right? Because it's different. Because some of the offensive guys, obviously the Russell Wilson didn't work out. Jay Cutler's on this list. So the Bears on here twice for Cutler and for Mack.
Oh, wow. They gave up 2 firsts for Cutler?
Yeah, both, I would argue, worked in their own way. But, I mean, Jay Cutler to this point.
I think you'd do the Jay Cutler thing.
I think you would do the Jay Cutler thing again because, he had that thumb injury that one year and then the knee injury. Like there was Jay Cutler was the best Bears quarterback of my lifetime until now.
Sure.
And I think I'd argue probably the top 2 or 3 still best quarterback of Bears history. And Khalil Mack, I was the person who was like, if you make a trade like that for Khalil Mack, he should retire a Chicago Bear. I said it over and over and over again. And the team let me down in that way. Because he doesn't fit the new system for the new coach. Well, that's the wrong hire. Then
Khalil Mack would fit any system.
Exactly. So anyways, that just kind of helped reinforce my point of what it's like. As you said, they got to make it work for Baltimore. You're giving up a lot. you get hopefully a lot in
And
return.
he's not 26. That's the thing too. What, he's gonna turn 30 this year or something like that, or
I
29?
it's
Um,
older than you want him to be, that's for
yeah.
sure.
So, I
Um,
mean,
and
that's
and 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 the thing
part
what
of
you
it too.
learned with the Khalil Mack deal and with a lot of these is when you trade those picks, you have to then sign the guy, right? So that's part of it what comes with this. Then you got to add the giant contract. You're adding a giant contract and losing cost controlled high end talent probable, with high end picks. So
Yeah.
good luck to the Ravens. I mean, I like it as a non Ravens fan. I mean, I would, if I was a Ravens fan, I'd be compartmentalizing it, trying to compartmentalize it. But
They got a
I
lot better.
they got better, and in that division, it feels a little wide open for the taking. I feel like Baltimore, they stamped maybe that, hey, we should be considered the favorites going into next year.
Yeah, for sure. And that was something that happened even before the free agency legal tampering period, because of course
Yeah.
that was a trade. So let's get into free agency. We could start in a million places. I think this
Well,
is
let's
going to be a
start with
little
our
scattered.
grade on the Raiders.
Yeah, okay, let's do it. I A plus for me. But no, probably not A plus, but I'm gonna give them. I'll probably give them an A so far. I think the Raiders have had a really nice start to free agency here. There's a couple caveats, but they have the money to do it, so I can't totally fault them for it. I thought the Jalen Naylor deal, to me, that's a lot of money to give a guy like Jalen Naylor, who, in my opinion, hasn't proven himself to be more than like a number three. Now, granted, he's been stuck on a team that has clear, 1 and 2, but 23 million guaranteed to Jalen Naylor, who hasn't popped at all. That was a little interesting. They obviously reset the center market completely with Tyler Linderbaum, giving him an $81 million deal, 3 years. I believe 60 million of that is guaranteed. Massive, massive deal. And he's top 3 center in the NFL right now. I'm surprised that the Ravens let him walk, to be honest. But after seeing that deal, I was like, okay, I can kind of, it's hard to swallow that kind
Yeah.
of price tag, but offensive linemen are a premium, and center is, the most underrated position probably in the league. It's super important. But, then they go and they fortify their defense, Mark, with some nice like mid-level signings in Kwity Paye, Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker. They go out and get Taron Johnson from the Bills, and Eric Stokes. They re-sign him. So, I mean, they've got an entirely new starting 8 starters on the defensive side of the ball next year, which is a good sign for a defense that really had no firepower at all. So, I thought they addressed so many needs, which is, to me, always the goal of free agency. It's not necessarily, I'm not looking for the crazy names. Of course, it's a big part of it. But to me, if you're a team, it's about finding where you can adequately plug in holes for your team so that you can go into the draft with a much more clear set of options versus having to force a position in the first round, because that's when mistakes happen, right? So I thought
Yeah.
the Raiders addressed that really well.
They're the offseason champs so far. And I think, it's funny. As soon as you said the Jalen Naylor thing, I couldn't help but totally agree with you. But it goes back to that, like, if you're a bad franchise historically, right, or you're in a rut, right, sometimes you gotta overpay. Like,
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
Like
very
you,
true.
and
That's
so it's like
totally
if
agree with
if
that.
the organization feels like, hey, we add Jalen Naylor to what we have going offensively, that he can be a stabilizing piece, and maybe we expect him to elevate to a 2, right? Like so that's a tough one. But yeah, Linderbaum was the kind of the prize free agent. Him and Hendrickson to me were the 2 guys going into it, Mike. Those are 2 guys that are going to make a real difference for whoever they go with. Obviously Maxx Crosby, that's a trade. It's a little different. But I also think if you're talking about the entire offseason so far for the Raiders, I like their head coach hire. I think that's a B plus, A minus, right? Like, okay, you went young offensive guy. That's where the league is going. I like that you got 2 first round picks for your star when you trade him. So now you have 4 first round picks in the next 2 years. And then you went and solidified pieces of your offense that were missing. Obviously, at center and wide receiver, you get better on defense. And obviously, you lost. It's hard to say you got better on defense. You got better in places that you needed to get better. Obviously, you took a giant hit
you
on your
lost your
defense
star,
too. But you say to yourself, if I'm the Raiders now, all encompassing. Also, they got a pick for Geno Smith. They turned a 7th and Geno into a 6th. That's a win too. Like, right? Like, I think that's a good move from a bad franchise. All right, you made a good move. I would say it has to be an A so far, and they have to be the leaders in the clubhouse for the best offseason as far as we're trying to rebuild, and we're trying to rebuild quickly. I mean, you say to yourself, in 2 years from now, with those 4 first-round picks, if they get Mendoza, and if Mendoza becomes even, I was going to say like Drake May, but that's hard now because Drake May just made it to a Super Bowl. Like, even if he becomes a quality starter, like I'm trying to think of a recent draft, quarterback that's like, hey, they're just
maybe Trevor before last year.
Yeah, like, right. You say like, hey,
wise,
production, he's productive. And, if he's Kirk Cousins plus, if he's Dak Prescott-esque, well, then the Raiders are in maybe finally heading towards some stability.
Hey, here's one for you, Derek Carr.
Yeah.
For the Raiders.
Right? Like, if you can, then you're headed back towards some respectability and stability. And I think Raiders fans at this point, I know they hate to hear that, but I would argue, I would take that, right? I would take like, hey, we may be 4th in this division because it's still a really good division, but we're a 7-win 4th, and we made them keep us out of the playoffs, right? Or we won at Arrowhead this year, and we upset a Chargers on the road, something like that. So good on them. A ton of great signings. The Linderbaum, the center is expensive.
It's a lot of money.
If the Bears would have been in on that, I would have been supportive of it. But then it's going to really, really take a hit in other places.
Well, and they're in a better position because the Raiders are, because they're not going to have to pay their quarterback for a few years, right? Caleb next year is going to get
probably
that contract, right?
Probably have to try to sign him early. Yeah, so they're in a luxury spot to do those moves, and so it was moves that made sense for sure.
Improved your offensive line, took a defense that was made up of C- to D players and filled it with a lot of C+ guys, B- guys.
And they got a ton of draft picks now.
And now they got 2 first-round picks. They get Mendoza, and then they pair him with a wide receiver. Now you got him, you got Jalen Naylor, you got Brock Bowers, you got Ashton Genty. All of a sudden, that offense is kind of looking a little scary, right? Especially if Mendoza delivers on even, half of those expectations.
Yeah, and the Raiders are interesting too, because I think they're one of those teams that's just going to upgrade like the Bears did with I think they can't be any worse coached than they were, right? Like, they fired Chip Kelly, and then they fired, you know what I mean? And then they fired Pete Carroll. It just didn't seem to work at all. Like, they'll just be better because they'll be better coached offensively. Obviously, defense is going to be interesting with no Maxx Crosby, but
yeah,
we'll see what they do with the picks. And so good on you for the Raiders. Thanks for asking the question. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and just expanding on that real quick, I'm not going to spend too much time because we'll have plenty of draft, previews and stuff. But what direction do you think the Raiders should go in the draft with number 1, number 14? Is the question. Number 1 is they got to get Mendoza. It's just the obvious choice,
or the quarterback. Yeah, or the Hall. But at this point, I feel like you've reset your roster to go get the quarterback.
Right, for sure. Yeah, get the quarterback. 14. I mean, depending on, I haven't dove too much into the prospect pool, but I know that wide receivers a high premium right now in this draft class. I would be perfectly fine getting him one of those top 2 to 3 wide receivers, but left tackle, a guard. That wouldn't upset me at all.
Yeah, protect him or give him a weapon. That's for sure.
Yeah. Another team, Mark, that I think, if the Raiders got an A, I would say this team B+, maybe even flirting with A- would be the Tennessee Titans. They didn't make any massive splash, but kind of like what we were talking about with the Raiders on defense is they kind of just got a bunch of guys to fill gaps. And I think they've set themselves up in a good position. Their big signing was John Franklin Myers, and they also got Alontae Taylor, the cornerback. But they signed multiple cornerbacks, so they've kind of revamped their entire secondary. They went heavy on defense here, and then got some depth for offense. Mitch Trubisky headed there on a 2-year deal to back up um,
Cam Ward.
Cam Ward, which obviously Trubisky, a known great locker room guy, so that's a good mentor to have there for Cam Ward. And then Wan'Dale Robinson was their big signing, which a really good. I mean, last year was kind of his coming out party, and he's really solid, great slot capabilities there too. So the Titans are starting to build things there, and didn't have to give up any of their draft capital and trades and stuff like that. So they're looking pretty good.
Yeah, I like what the Titans did. I have no issues with what they spent and where they spent it. I think the Titans, again, are just another one of those teams like I just mentioned. I'm more excited as far as their offseason goes. I just think they're going to be so much better coach. You add in Saleh, who I think is got the chance to be a really good CEO head coach and calling his defense. And then you have, Brian Daboll as your offensive coordinator. I just think like the coaching alone should help really elevate them. I'll be interested to see what Tennessee does in the draft, and we'll get to that in the coming weeks. But listen, they're in a tougher division, and so they've got to, like a Raiders, go out and be aggressive, right? You can't just hope that you can solve all the issues to the draft. They're a team that has to be a little aggressive, and I actually think players are starting to really warm up to Nashville. I think Nashville is one of those destinations you're going to see that. We talk a lot about players want to go to Vegas or LA or they want to go to Miami. I think Nashville is really, really growing.
Sure.
We know it's growing. It's like if Austin had a team. Like the culture is just expanding there.
And there's no state income tax in Tennessee, I don't believe either.
Yeah, so it's tax friendly. They're getting a brand new stadium. You feel like if I'm a free agent, you have stability there with the head coach, right, and offensive coordinator, and then you say to yourself, man, this is not the worst place in the world to live. Like, I think Theo Vaughn works out of Nashville. Like, it's like you have country music. It's a cultural, it's growing as a cultural hub. People are flocking to Nashville away from Los Angeles. It's kind of like an Austin. So that I think, you're lucky. Like, it's one of those things that the Bears have to battle. You're going to live in Illinois and you're going to, you have the highest property taxes in the country. Like there are certain things that play a factor, right? LA has always been a destination because once you have money and you're rich and famous, you want to go to LA anyways. Miami always has had that advantage in the NBA. We know in football, it seems like guys still like to go to Miami, but they don't, they don't have the winning culture that like the Heat have had over the last, 15, 20 years for sure.
Yeah.
They need a little Pat Riley magic. So yeah, I like all that to say, I like what Tennessee did. And I think a lot of it makes sense. The pieces they're getting. I would have been weirded out if they spent a ton of money on like a Kenneth Walker, which maybe we could talk about next. It just didn't feel like that would be the right move for Tennessee as they really need to kind of another year away, right? This was like a, 2 steps forward, 1 step back type of year. Then next year, if you get to 7-8 wins and you feel like you need a piece, then go be aggressive because you still won't be paying Cam Ward yet.
Sure. Yeah, no, totally agree with that. Yeah, I did want to go to Kenneth Walker next. Figured we'd hit on a couple more players here, especially like some quarterbacks too, and then kind of look at some remaining free agents, and then we'll be able to have a more robust reaction next week as well when more of the free agent stuff comes out and once the dust settles. But yeah, Kenneth Walker to the Chiefs. I had floated this as a potential option on the show last week. I thought it was a really good fit, and the Chiefs now have a dynamic backfield with Kenneth Walker there. Something they've missed for quite a few years. We always talked about Andy Reid's ability to scheme running backs well.
Yeah.
It just wasn't materializing with Pacheco and Hunt. And, Hunt's had his moments, of course, but yeah, it's just never fully materialized. And this seems like the best opportunity for them to maybe lean into a more run heavy approach than they have in recent years.
Yeah. I mean, it feels to me like not a desperation move. I saw some of that being floated around. It feels to me like the Chiefs are saying, hey, listen, you got your licks in this year. this was it. We're not going through this again, right? We're not going through this again. I mean, moving on from Nagy, bringing back Bieniemy, re-signing Travis Kelce, and then saying, hey, we're going to go pay the most money ever given to a running back in free agency to go get the Super Bowl MVP to help. Especially, I think he's going to have a huge role early in the season because I don't know if Mahomes is going to start the season.
Yeah.
And if Mahomes isn't going to play until October-ish, it'll be really interesting to see where this Chiefs offense goes. But I think a lot of it is going to be Kenneth Walker, and they kind of know that too. It's like, hey, I'll be interested also to see the total contract when it's actually worked out, when these guys actually sign, because to me it feels like it's going to be one of those things that it's really a 2-year deal, right? And then they can maybe move off and move around. And it wouldn't shock me if the Chiefs, there's no Pacheco anymore. I don't know what Hunt's contract situation is like, but it wouldn't shock me if they go and draft a running back too and try to do the Charbonnet thing with him. Be like, hey, you're going to be our veteran, you're going to be our stud, but we're going to make sure we don't kill you. And you've been a part of a backfield, a combo backfield. We're going to keep that.
And he's only 25 as well. So that's,
No.
I mean, he's 25 and he's really had the wear and tear maybe of what you would say like a 23-year-old
like half,
because he's played half a season for a couple years now.
Yeah.
And he has had some injuries, so that's got to take that into account. But
no, I don't hate the move. And if the NFL, I think if I'm Roger Goodell, I'm thrilled what the Chiefs are doing, because Travis Kelce's about to get married this offseason to the biggest superstar on the planet. The Chiefs didn't make the playoffs for the first time in years. The AFC felt very Josh Allen and the others, and the Chiefs being aggressive in the way they were is, I think, going to be huge for them staying relevant. Could I see the Chiefs, when Mahomes gets back, maybe Mahomes misses all of September and maybe early October, and they're kind of floating around 500 or game below 500. How fun will that be to then see the Chiefs maybe battle, to a 9-win team or a 10-win team when Mahomes comes back? And then all of a sudden it's like they're the team that you're like, oh crap, they're peaking at the right time. You do not want to be the 2 seed hosting the wild card Chiefs, right? Like that will be that storyline and all of that on, kind of this maybe Kelsey's final run. Like I can see the script writers, getting their quills wet and writing that out. And I think Kenneth Walker is going to be a huge part of that. I like it. I like the signing of re-signing of Kelce. No bringing back Gardner Minshew. So it's not going to be Gardner Minshew who starts for the Chiefs.
Right.
If it is, Mahomes missing the first part of the year.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Let's go to the Colts real quick. They sign Alec Pierce to a pretty substantial deal. 4-year, $116 million, 84 guaranteed. Of course, that made it so that they weren't going to be able to afford Michael Pittman. He gets traded to the Steelers for a 6th and 7th round pick swap, and then the Steelers turn around and sign him to a 3-year, $59 million deal. Your thoughts on both of those situations there with the Colts wide receivers?
Well, from what I've read, the Alec Pierce and Daniel Jones, they, obviously had great success on the field, but they came really, really close. And it looks like from how the quarterback dominoes have fallen, Daniel Jones will get his 1 year, $30-something million. He'll stay in Indianapolis, and keeping Alec Pierce then seems like a real, no-brainer for the Colts. It's a lot of money to spend for a guy who I don't know if he's your number one. Where is he on the list of is he on the list of number ones? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, not in the top 5, that's for sure. But he's being paid like he's in that range. So, listen, I think it's we'll see how it turns out. But it feels like the Colts, again, it's a move of like, we are not ready to go into the tank. We want to stay relevant. We want to, try to build off of what was early success last year, which I get it. I totally get it. And then on the flip side, Pittsburgh, the Pittman move was the start of a really, I think, solid run for Pittsburgh in the offseason. I know you'll expound on it here in a minute. I look at that wide receiver room now. Pittman, to my knowledge, has not been any sort of a diva. And him and
No,
and
yeah,
and,
he's
hi-
been a pretty heads down
and him and
guy.
DK Metcalf together talk about like the twin towers, right?
Yeah,
Like these two,
just
they're
2
two
very
of the
giant.
same guy. You know what I mean? Like take the top off, big end zone, red zone targets. Um, that's going to be a nightmare for opposing defenses to really have to handle. Those safeties are like, where do I go? Which side am I rolling to? I like that. And then, of course, you can touch on some of the other moves they made, the Rico Dowdle and everything. But again, it just goes back to who's going to be throwing Pittman and DK the ball. That's still the question mark in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Alex Kozora has been talking about how the Steelers basically are like building a basketball team. Like they've got
With
Darnell
Darnell
Washington,
Washington, yeah.
they've got Michael Pittman, DK Metcalf, Pat Fryermuth's not a small guy.
No.
So it's a pretty big offense. I also think this probably makes it even more likely. I was fairly convinced that Aaron Rodgers was going to come back. I think it's even more likely now because he's not a guy that wants to work with rookie wide receivers. So they get a proven veteran guy to come in there as well.
Good
And
deal
they're
too.
both big.
Money wise, I thought that was very affordable.
Yeah, especially because I would bet the numbers haven't come out in terms of how it's structured, but I would bet that they've been able to reduce his cap for this year significantly. He was due 24 million against the Colts cap. They'll probably make it like 10 million this year. The Steelers will. And then, he's got more guarantees probably in year 2, and then they can likely cut bait with him after 2 years if it doesn't work out for whatever reason, would be my guess. But they're also two kind of different skill sets because they're both big guys, but Pittman's much more like underneath. He doesn't like do like deep balls that much. He's much more of like the middle of the field, like possession guy that's just like really big and strong and box out people. And then DK's the take your the cap off the defense. So it's a good a pairing in that way. I still think they should target a wide receiver early because now then you're talking like don't let your foot off the gas. Like really make this an offense to be feared, even while you're trying to figure out
Yeah.
who your quarterback's going to be for the future. Get a guy that can win all over the field.
Your
You
Luther
know,
Burden. You need your Luther
yes,
Burden to fill
yeah,
that like just explosive,
yes. You need a
fast,
big
second
play.
round, third round guy who's 6 feet tall, 5'11", but you just a nightmare on third down. Get the ball in his hands.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that that would be good. Yeah, they got Rico Dowdle, which was great because they lost Kenneth Gainwell, which was a bummer because Gainwell had such a great season for them.
Where did he end
Um,
up? Where did I
he got
was
money, Tampa. He's going to Tampa, and he got a good contract, 7 million a year. I believe like 10 million of it was guaranteed.
Oh,
So
good
it's
for
like,
him.
hey, like a nice 2-year contract for Kenneth Gainwell. Rico Dowdle reunites with McCarthy. That was his coach in Dallas for a couple of years. So there's that. And he can be more of a goal line guy. So I like it. And then they get Jamel Dean, the corner from Tampa, who's been really, really good. One of the better corners, like kind of, under the radar corners throughout the year. But he's turning 29. So I'm kind of sick of the Steelers going for old defensive backs, which they've kind of done for the last like 8 years, even when they got Joe Hayden from the Browns towards the end of his career. But so that's a position I think they'll target early in the draft as well. But yeah, all around, no complaints. I was happy with the start for them and just glad that they had addressed it and, showed a willingness to spend more on the offensive side and kind of lean into that approach and get this offense on the right track. So really was overall happy about that.
Yeah. Do I can talk Bears here now, and then we can do
Yeah,
the quarterback moves. Then we can look at forward to still who's out
sure.
there.
Yep.
So I'll start with this. I was on the record of saying, listen, I don't want to lose a DJ Moore. Your team is better with a DJ Moore, but I also understand the financials. You're going to pay DJ Moore a lot of money if you kept him on this roster. And then you start to say to yourself, we're committing a lot of money to a position that we feel is already pretty strong with Luther Burden and Rome Odunze. And so I understand that. And then you have Colson Loveland becoming, maybe your number one option. And so I understand the move. I love that they were able to get a second round pick for him. I think that was great value. And I also, for Buffalo, love the move for Buffalo. He reunites with Joe Brady. He becomes an instant number one, which he is a number one. He is a number one, and so I think there's a lot to like about that. I will quickly say for the rest of the Bears moves, listen, I love my guy Sylvie, Waddle and Sylvie in ESPN 1000 Chicago, but I laugh because it's like, the poll question is immediately like, are the Bears better now than they were 5 days ago? Whatever. It's like, it's hard, right? No, they're not a better team right now than they were in the season ended, right? I like Devin Bush. I like they re-signed Hardy and DeMarco Jackson. I really like the Kobe Bryant move too. Kobe Bryant's very good, but they still don't have another safety. Brisker and is still out there. Now I can't think.
They lost Nahshon Wright.
Yeah, Nahshon Wright. I mean, so you still have a bunch of holes. But ask me that question when training camp starts, when the draft is done and everything else is settled. Are the Bears as good as they were as a team that ended the season last year? Then I'll have a more of an answer to that. My answer, I'm hoping, is that they nail the draft and they find, fill the rest of those holes. And then I can say, I think they'll be better because I like the team speed they added on defense with Bush and Kobe Bryant at key positions. And I like that I have a quarterback in year 2 of a system, right? Like that automatically is better. They're going to start faster. Remember, this is a Bears team that was 0-2 and offensively looked really shaky to start the season and really didn't find their stride offensively. Colson Loveland through the first 5 games was a no-show when we were talking about maybe being a bust pick. And so all of that being said, I'm not thrilled by the moves, but I'm also, I guess 2 weeks ago versus now, I didn't understand the real cap struggle the Bears are in. They're in a tight little window, and you think, well, how could that be? They're not paying their quarterback. Yeah, they've restructured. They have money. They've been able to sign guys. It's not like they've spent no money, but they did spend a lot of money last offseason. They got a lot of money in this cap they can't do anything about with the Grady Jarrett contract and Odemegbo or whatever his name is, who got injured at the end, who was supposed to solve a lot of those issues. So we'll see. Would I've loved to have gotten Maxx Crosby? Would I've loved to have gotten Trey Hendrickson? Yeah, it feels like the Bears knew from the moves they did last year that just wasn't going to happen. And now you have to hope that Shamir Turner, who never played it down, comes back healthy and that you can still address that position in the draft. And you have your draft picks. They should have got more. The competitor draft pick story is insane. Everyone is saying
it's a wild formula.
Everyone is saying the Bears got cheated out of it. And I agree they did. So we'll see. I don't want to spend a ton, but I like the moves. I'm not sitting here going to go, the Bears are now going to win the Super Bowl. But I think they're filling positions they had to fill with quality players, and they haven't overspent, from the center position to the linebackers, so far they filled the gaps and they haven't killed their future in as far as picks and giant committed money. So that's all good.
Let's talk the quarterbacks real quick, and we can probably talk more about this like next week too when we
we know when all the dust settles.
Your instant thoughts on Malik Willis signing with the Miami Dolphins and then with Tua going to Atlanta. Two left-handed quarterbacks, pretty similar prototypes there in Atlanta too. That's kind of funny.
Shame on me. Last week when I was thinking landing spots for Malik Willis,
I was so fixated. Neither of us thought of Miami.
So fixated on LaFleur's brother, and I just didn't think about Miami at all. And it makes so much sense. Hafley is the defensive coordinator. He went against Malik Willis in practice for 2 straight years. It was probably like, this kid's good. This kid is good, and I know what I'm getting. I know the kind of leader I'm getting. I know the kind of person. Like, it makes so much sense. So good for Miami. Good for him. And in that division, you're looking up at 2, MVP level quarterbacks, and so that's a lot. It's going to be a lot. But again, they're paying him nothing, and you hope he's more productive than Tua, and you're paying him way less money, right? Like, so that's the
Yeah.
and listen, when you are the Dolphins and you have $99 million in dead Tua money on your cap, your only option is drafting a guy or doing this. And I think this is you're not getting Mendoza. So I think this move is way better than anything else they could have gotten in the draft. So I like it for Miami.
That's true.
For
Yeah.
Tua, what a win for Tua. He's getting his money and then he signs a very, cheap deal. But the deal is you have a chance to be the starter.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is,
Now,
how many places was that actually going to be a realistic option? Not many.
It's not. And we said last week with Tua too, he'd kill for a chance to just be a starter. Now the pressure's on him, right? The pressure's on him to nail it, to earn that job long term. That's a different conversation if he'll do that or not, but he's getting the chance. So good for him. And then the other quarterback moves, Geno Smith is now a Jet. That's just fun. He's not going to be their starter next year. This is a 1 year, fill the gap. The Jets have a ton of picks. They have all the picks and they have Geno Smith. So I think that's fun. It's a fun storyline. Better than watching some rookie no-name guy just get killed for 17 games in New York. Maybe he can, they don't need the number 1 overall pick. Well, they'd like it because they're going to draft their quarterback. But maybe Geno will win too many games soon. So that'll be a fun storyline to follow for the Jets all season long. And then for Kyler, he's just the one, right? He's still homeless. He's still without a chair. So we'll see. It's not Arizona.
And it's not going to be Arizona. Right?
And it's not.
So
and it's
not going to be Vegas.
It's not Vegas.
Atlanta now. So
that it feels like Kyler's now looking for a reclamation job. Maybe it's Minnesota. Maybe you're just going to go be someone's backup somewhere, which would be interesting. Then that would be a really fun storyline when we talk about it. What about you? Are you similar with your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I really like the fit for Willis in Miami. I think that's really interesting, and obviously it's multiple Green Bay guys who had seen him personally, so they have to feel good about him as his approach to the game, not just him as a player. And this isn't a team going off of what they saw on tape. This is a front office who is familiar with Malik Willis, the player. So they were clearly confident. It's a decent amount of money. It's a good contract, like good for Malik.
Yeah.
But has he proven himself yet? I'm not so sure. But they would be the group of people, if there's any in the league, to know what they've got in this signing. So yeah, I thought that was really good. And then Tua, not only do you have a shot to start, but it's like you're going up against your prototype. Like it's not that you're going to have to worry about, but is the guy I'm going up against a better scheme fit for Kevin Stefanski?
The same guy.
No, you guys are like very, very similar players. Yeah. So like you just got to beat him out straight up.
And Penix is coming off that torn ACL. You kind of forget about that. His season ended on an injury. So it's like he's guaranteed.
And nobody's tied to him.
He's guaranteed probably going to start the season. And then you say to yourself, it's up to you, dude, just to not F it up. You have weapons. You have a great offensive coach. You're in a dome. Like, don't F this up. And we'll see if Tua can have a reclamation year. And that's going to be an interesting offseason storyline for sure.
Before we bounce, I'll name a couple names here of pending free agents still, and just get the thoughts. We got Trey Hendrickson still out there.
Yep.
We have Kyler Murray, of course. We've got Bradley Chubb, and then when it comes to like some of the wide receivers, you got Tyreek Hill, Deebo Samuel, Juwan Jennings,
Diggs.
There's some names out there. Diggs, Rashad White. There's some names out there, some actual production, and not all 33-year-olds.
Yeah, there are some names. You're right. I mean, Trey Hendrickson's now the guy to keep an eye on, right? And you feel for him.
Absolutely.
You feel for him because he's wanted a team to lock him up. He's wanted his own team to lock him up for years, and now it feels like, dude, you're on the wrong side of 30, and you want a long deal. It's just not going to happen. I'm sure there's deals out there for him that are pretty darn good. So we'll see where he lands and how that all falls. As far as everything else goes, though, this is this is the kind of um, fake game you talk yourself into as a fan, right? Free agency is so sick. It's like, okay, the first 5 or 6 big names are gone, and then you're shopping, right? Like you can find good fits. Like I think the Bears getting Khalif Raymond, that's a great fit. You need a returner. Ben Johnson knows him. It's like, okay, and you need a little depth at wide receiver. Great, okay, easy, quick contract, boom. But by this time, now the free agency actually starts. The guys who are uncommitted, the names are a little rough. There's no shiny perfect thing out there left, but there's some quality. So your teams don't overspend at this point in time. I would just say that. Don't overspend.
We didn't even talk about Mike Evans to the 49ers, but I think that's something that maybe we'll open the show
substation. The substation. You got to look out.
Watch out. Yeah.
The Niners, man, there's a lot of injuries. That's just like, it feels like
they're just chasing for something,
It does. It feels like they're hanging on for dear life, dude. That's gonna be a story for sure.
But obviously, free agency doesn't officially begin until tomorrow, Wednesday. So there's going to be more of these moves. A lot of the names we talked about. I'm sure by this time next week, we'll know where Trey Hendrickson will end up, as well as several of these other names. So we'll be back to discuss that. And we'll see if this final video will play, Mark, or if it's going to be a terrifying clown show.